Welcome everyone to a new video. Today, as you can see, I am at Bon's Burgers and I have brought you a very interesting theory. We're gonna be taking a closer look at a man named Jack Walten. A man who kept a secret that would eventually cause the loss of his entire family. I'm sure you've all seen the recent episode of the Walten Files called Faces of Grief. And if you haven't yet, I highly recommend you check it out because it's really good. This new installment focuses on Rosemary Walten, and we get to see her try and handle her grief of losing two of her children. But not only do we see her side of this entire story, we also see a lot of her husband, Jack Walten. We see him trying to be a strong father and husband, not willing to show any sorrow for what happened to his children. Although it is quite clear that behind this mask he puts on, there is a struggle inside Jack Walten. We do see him uplifting both Sophie and Rosemary. Especially on that parking spot, we see him having a nice and pretty wholesome, considering the circumstances, conversation with his wife. Now, so far, one would say he seems great. He seems innocent and just like a man that's trying to come to terms with everything that's happened. Let's move on and get to where all the cracks really start showing. In this same episode, we see him and Rosemary going to the police station. They get asked if they want to press charges, and Jack Walten immediately makes the decision not to. Now, that is very strange on its own, and if we take a look at the secret video, which you can find if you find the secret links in the new installment, then we can see Rosemary's journal. Let's take one specific glimpse at one journal entry that happens right after the visit to the police. He isn't pressing charges. I don't understand it. I always trusted his judgment and I love him so much, but I just don't understand this. I'm not going to argue with him. That's the last thing I need right now. I want to trust you. I need to trust you right now. So why would you do this to me? Why? As you can see from this page, Rosemary questions and doubts what Jack Walten did. She doubts the decision and doesn't understand why her husband would not press charges. Clearly, there was a reason to this. Jack Walten has a secret that also involves his business partner and great friend, Felix. That even after what Felix did, he cannot risk this secret coming out. And launching an investigation at Bon's Burgers possibly could have caused Jack's secret to come out. Now we know something happened that Jack is desperately trying to hide. The question is, what could he possibly be hiding? What could have possibly happened? Luckily for us, this episode provides plenty of more detail. We see multiple scenes showing Jack hunting in this episode. For example, we see him interact with Sophie, and Sophie had drawn him hunting, getting both a deer and a rabbit during his hunting session on this picture. And at first, his reaction is at least decently normal, and he tells her it's beautiful, although I think you can already see that something is up. Shortly after, we see Jack having a mental breakdown and ripping the paper in half, like there's some strange bad memory connected to it. Why would this drawing cause such a reaction? And what possibly happened while he went hunting? I think both of these questions get answered just a little later. A bit into the episode, we see a dream that Rosemary is having, where she hears a gunshot and then proceeds into the forest following the sound. And she ends up finding, who at this point had already gone missing, her husband, Jack Walten. We see him in the forest standing over a deer with a weapon. A deer that he had just shot in the head. Yet it does not die. It refuses to perish. We then see Jack Walten wandering off, and once again, Rosemary takes a step closer and we see her specifically looking at this deer, showing us there's something more to it. Now, take a look at the deer and the wounds he has. Shot fatally in his head. Let me show you a picture, a scene from episode 4 of the Walten Files, one episode earlier than this one, and one of the only shots we have of Bond's, the spirit Bond, side profile. As you can see, there is what looks to be and what many believe to be a gunshot wound, a bullet wound right to the head, a fatal injury, but he moved on. He's still here, refusing to die. So, Jack Walten shot the man who goes on to become Bond in the head. And just like the deer, when he shot that man, he didn't quite die. He went on to become a spirit. While the physical body went limp and began to rot, the spiritual body doesn't move on quite as quickly. Those are the words of Bond himself, for a reason. Not only can I tell you what exactly happened, but I can also tell you when it happened, and that Felix Kranken was most certainly involved. If we go all the way back to episode number 3 and take a look at the writing we find by Linda, the ex-wife of Felix Kranken, we see that in 1964, his wife reports that he's recently began acting weird and began having his drinking problems. Something traumatic must have happened recently before that time. But I don't think it was quite in the year 1964. I think it was 1 year earlier. Let's take a look at the official Find Jack Walten website, a website known for hiding quite a lot of clues about the entire lore of the Walten Files. And if we take a look at a specific link that used to be active, we find a computer with questions being answered by Felix Kranken. Now, we can ignore most of these questions for now, but let's take a look at this one. Name a random year. And you can probably guess what Felix Kranken answered. 1963. That's a very specific year to mention here, especially considering the connection that we just saw to his wife and the beginning of his mental spiral. There is also a lot more evidence. Let me present you one of the most interesting ones that I found. There's an official audio known as the River Song. Let's just take a listen together.
Hello everyone, this is Bruce Callahan, professor of biology at the University of South Carolina. A couple years back, in the year 1963, I was alerted to a phenomenon in the town of Brighton, Michigan, known as the River Song. Now, this was reported by the locals as a wailing and crying sound which could be heard around the local streams and creeks of Brighton. Now, we went up there with field recorders and several hours worth of reel-to-reel tape in order to, in hopes of recording this sound and putting it down on tape and figuring out once and for all what this sound was. However, we were surprised with what we had found and what we had recorded, and so here's a recording of what we believe to have been the River Song.
Notice the date. Specifically in 1963, a whistling started to appear near the river. We see Felix Kranken's car crash, happen right at that river. We also see the same river when Rosemary goes out to the river in the forest, and while almost making a terrible decision, goes to visit Wonderland for just a second as her head is in the river. We hear whistling there in 1963, and sure, that could mean a lot of things. Is there anyone in the series that is known for whistling? Well, yes. Let us take a look at Bond's grand first real appearance in episode number 4.
I can hear you, Susan.
As he makes his very first clear appearance and introduces himself, he does so by whistling. So let us put all things together. In 1963, Jack Walten shoots a man in the head and fatally injures him. But that man refuses to perish, instead moving on to become the spirit of Bond. Felix likely helped cover things up. They're business partners and, most importantly, great friends. We don't know his full involvement, but we do know whatever happened there and whatever he did causes him to fall into a Great Depression. Now it also makes sense that we see the spirit of Bond in recordings that don't match up with the dates of the disappearances, such as seeing him way earlier in recorded tapes by Rosemary when the animatronics are just getting made. And also, it explains this picture seen in the background of Return of the Pumpkin Rabbit. We clearly see Bond, we clearly see his spirits at the car crash, which now makes sense knowing that he was already around for many, many years when that happened. This shows that Jack himself is the one that kickstarts everything, causing the event that spirals into Felix crashing his car and the spirit of Bond taking his wife and perhaps later even himself. I hope this theory brought us all a little bit closer to the truth, and I hope it also made you press that like and subscribe button. Thank you for watching, and tell me what you think in the comments below. Until next time, goodbye.